Hello, everyone. Continuing the series this year on tools, we're going to change things up just a little bit. We're going to switch over to drone photography. Now, if you're doing drone photography for money, and that includes being monetized on a YouTube channel, you have to have a commercial license. But what I'm going to talk about today will apply whether you're flying commercially or you just want to get some cool shots of the neighborhood for yourself. So what we're going to talk about today is a wind gauge. Now, this is both a good and a bad thing. I'm sure when you go fly, you pull up one of your applications, and the application will tell you what the weather conditions are going to be like for that day or what they currently are. And you can use that. They usually have a scale on there to show you whether if there's anything that's in the red, meaning that this wouldn't be a good idea to fly today. And that could include precipitation, wind, air temperature, things like that. And a lot of those have adjustments that you can make to them that you are setting those goals. But here's the problem with those. Even if you go to something like the Weather Channel and you just use that, any weather you get for current conditions is based off of wherever their monitoring station is. A lot of cases, this is at an airport, which may or may not be anywhere near where you are. I take photographs at Fort Ticonderoga. It's off of Lake Champlain. There's a lot of wind that can come off of that lake. And depending on where the weather station is, it may have no indication at all of that. Now, let's get to why a wind gauge is a good and a bad thing. Wind gauges are great for telling you what the wind conditions are where you are standing. All right, wherever you're holding that gauge up, it's got its little fins in there that are going to spin. And it's going to tell you what the weather condition or what the wind conditions are where you are. This is good because when you take off and land, you'll know what your weather conditions are going to be like right where you are, right? And that's important. If you can pick a different takeoff spot that has less wind, for example, so much the better. Go find that spot and work from there, especially if you can find a spot that's going to allow you to fly home with the wind at your back, right? So when you're flying out, if your drone is facing the wind, it's going to use more power. But if it's flying back with the wind behind you, you're going to get an extra little push from that. So if you're out in any kind of wind at all, you do want to make sure that you keep a good close eye on your battery power. That said, the wind that your drone will be flying in is not necessarily the wind where you are, right? You could be flying up to 400 feet above where you are, and the wind can be completely different up there. You can look out and see the tops of trees blow some days and feel nothing at all on the ground, for example. So the other tool for your consideration here is training. And what this involves is looking for the National Weather Service, which hopefully will still be offering these considering the chaos that's going on right now. They have spotter training. These are for weather spotters that they will rely upon to get local information. There's other organizations like Skywarn that may offer training as well. When you're out in the tornado alley, you're going to have a different type of training there. And the Skywarn operations are going to be more robust in those areas because Skywarn is there to make sure that people are safe and that people get through the weather conditions. And if not, that support gets to where they need to be. In Vermont, the Skywarn nets are typically activated when the weather is going to be bad, but we're not necessarily going to have the same type of weather conditions as Tornado Alley. We get tornadoes very, very rarely here. What we're worried about more is power outages. Again, with a power outage, with the Skywarn net, in this case it's a ham radio net, we can call into the ham radio net and report the conditions, which can then be called out to the authorities if need be, and it can be called in by somebody who doesn't have a working cell phone for whatever reason. All they just need to have is a radio capable of hitting a one of the repeater towers. So that said, they have a Beaufort scale at the spotter training. What that tells you is by looking at the conditions of the trees and then looking at this guide, you can get an approximation of what the wind is going to be like. Now, you may be above even that, depending on where you're flying and what the area around you is like. For example, if you're out in a field and you don't have any trees in line of sight, you can't get an indication of what the wind is like further up. But by having the spotter training and being able to check what the clouds are doing and the overall conditions in the area, you can be alerted to what the conditions are now, but also have a feel for what's coming and about how quickly it's going to get there. Both of those things are going to be valuable because you don't want to crash your drone. That's the whole goal here, is you want to be able to get out, fly, have fun, get your photographs, and come home safely and recharge your drone, go out another day. So a wind gauge will be good where you're standing or where you've got the wind gauge to tell you what the wind speed currently is. There's ways you could do poles and things like that, but again, your drone is going to be up a lot higher than you're probably going to have the ability to put a pole up with a wind gauge on the top of it. A wind sock is a similar thing. It's less accurate in that it doesn't have a digital readout or anything like that you can go by, but it can give you the same type of information, the direction and the amount of wind based off of how taut your windsock has been pulled. The weather off of the apps or off of the NOAA weather services are going to be specific to wherever their reporting station is. So having the ability to, by going through spotter training, determine what your weather is like around you and what's coming up is going to be valuable for you. So that's what I've got for you this week. Take a look at wind gauges. They're inexpensive and they'll tell you what your conditions are like, where you're taking off and landing. And look around at the National Weather Service or any Skywarn groups in your area, which could be connected to a ham radio club. So that's another place you can search and see if any of them have training coming up. Some of the Weather Service ones, they actually have training online that you can get a good foundation on what the weather conditions are like and what to look for. And the Beaufort wind scale is something that the Weather Service has. That's a PDF file that you can grab and put on your phone or put a copy of it in your go bag with your drone. So that's what I got for you guys this week, and I will talk to you all next week.